Allison Harper was born and raised in the quiet town of Monterey, California. From an early age, she dreamed of living among the wilderness. While her peers played video games, Allison drew animals, watched documentaries about savannas, and studied the habits of predators. After graduating from university, where she studied zoology and ecology, Allison began her career at the San Francisco Zoo, where she cared for exotic animals and participated in endangered species breeding programs. But after a couple years, the zoo's walls became cramped for her. Allison felt she could do more. Her dream, to protect animals in their natural environment, became so strong that she decided to take a radical step, moving to Africa. At 28, Allison accepted an offer to work in Masai Mara, one of Kenya's largest reserves. It was tough at first. The heat during the day was up to 40 degrees, and at night the temperature dropped sharply, sometimes as low as 10. The insects, the noise of the savannah at night, the long foot patrols, it all seemed like an ordeal. But Allison never complained. She was the kind of person who met hardship with a straight back and an easy smile. Every day she traveled deep into the reserve on an ATV, checking areas for poachers, observing animal migration, and recording data on rare species. She quickly became friends with the local ranger team, teaching them English, and they taught her Maasai dialect and ancient signs to predict animal behavior. After a few months, she was already confidently navigating the savannah, taking notes, photographing herds of antelope, tracking elephant families, and watching lions hunt. One morning, at the height of the dry season, her partner Joseph reported sick. The patrol could not be canceled. Poacher attacks had increased in the region in recent days. Allison decided to go alone. She packed a backpack with water, dry food, bandages, and a radio. She took her binoculars, GPS, knife, and got on the ATV. The sun was just beginning to rise, painting the sky a fiery pink. Everything was going smoothly. On the way, she noted fresh elephant tracks and discovered the nest of a rare bird species, the eastern ground starling. However, as she drove along an arid riverbed, she noticed suspicious movement in the distance. Slowing down, Allison pulled out her binoculars and saw an old military jeep parked in an acacia thicket. The car was covered in dust, with no license plates. She turned off the engine and quietly moved closer. The neighborhood was deserted. 3 men came out from behind the car. One was smoking, another was surveying the area, the third was standing guard. Allison knew at once they were poachers. As she got closer, she noticed a small creature lying next to the vehicle, covered by a tarpaulin. When the wind lifted the cloth, Allison saw a baby giraffe, bound at the legs and with a gag in its mouth. The animal had wounds on its flanks. It had clearly been beaten and gagged. Without waiting, Allison came out of hiding, loudly demanding that the men stop. One of them grabbed a machete. The other walked toward her. Allison backed away and tried to reach for the radio, but a third crept up behind her and ripped it from her hands. She was twisted, thrown to the ground, and her hands tied. One of the men grinned evilly. "No one comes here alone. You made a mistake, girl." They tied Allison to the tree and covered the giraffe again. The poachers hurriedly finished loading, about to leave before backup arrived. The sun had risen to its zenith. The air shook with heat. Sweat rolled down her face, her mouth dry, her wrists ached, the rope cutting into her skin. Her strength was leaving her. She closed her eyes, praying for the giraffe to live. Suddenly, soft footsteps were heard. Someone approached cautiously. She opened her eyes. A herd of zebras was passing nearby. But that wasn't what surprised her. Behind the zebras was an old baboon that Allison had once rescued from a trap. He had a broken toe on his front paw. She had treated him for weeks and had even given him a name, Kolo. Kolo walked up to her, frozen, staring at her with his yellow eyes. Allison whispered his name. The baboon looked around and suddenly began tugging at the rope with his teeth. He pulled, biting until one of the ropes loosened. Allison, gritting her teeth, freed one hand and untied the rest of the rope herself. "Thank you, Kolo," she whispered, But the baboon had already disappeared into the thicket. She got up, with trembling hands turned on the spare radio hidden in her boot, and transmitted the coordinates. Then snuck to the car while the poachers were busy with the cub. Allison slammed the car door loudly, distracting them. One rushed toward her, but at that moment shots rang out in the air. It was reinforcements arriving. A short chase ensued. One poacher escaped, but two were caught on the spot. An hour later, they found the third poacher. He was identified by a noise in the bushes, where he had tripped and dislocated his leg. The baby giraffe was rescued, and was in shock, but had no internal injuries. Allison rode with him herself to the veterinary center. After a few days, the giraffe, named Tino, began eating and taking his first steps. Allison visited him often, bringing him his favorite acacia leaves. Later, when things subsided, Allison sat in her house on the edge of the reserve, drinking herbal tea and writing in her journal. Her fingers ached and her shoulders were aching, but her heart was full of warmth. She looked again at the picture of Kolo pinned to the wall and smiled. "Good things are coming back," she whispered, looking out the window, where the purple sunset was coloring the savannah a golden red. The next morning, Allison was back on patrol. A dozen new days lay ahead of her, with risk, dust, heat, and perhaps new lives saved. But she knew every step she took across this land mattered, and if even one animal survived because of her efforts, then it was not in vain. Allison believed that even in the farthest corner of the world, goodness resonates, and one day, what you gave away would come back to you. Sometimes, in the form of a rescued baby giraffe, and sometimes, in the form of an old baboon, who comes to free you in your time of need. Thank you for listening to this story to the end. If it touched you, put a like, it will help a lot in promoting the channel. Be sure to subscribe not to miss new stories about wildlife, real heroism, and incredible adventures. See you in the next video.